Our roots are in Montana. We always have been, but I really think that community relations and public relations and marketing and PR are all one thing. And I kind of wear that hat on a regional level and then work with our corporate team in Cushing Terrell to help get that information out.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Kavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast.
Where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana.
To share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, community development, and workforce development. Learn more at bigskyeconomicdevelopment.org. Today joining us on The Vault is Amanda Jungles, Regional Director of Business Development for Cushing Terrell. Welcome, Amanda.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. So I'm just going to say you're very, very good at what you do. I've known you just for a little bit, maybe coming up on a year now. I've seen you in action and beyond impressed. So we're excited to talk to you today about business development in the architecture and engineering world. And we really like to start each episode just getting to know you and having our audience get to know you and your background. So let's just jump into that. And why don't you tell us where you grew up, what your upbringing was like?
So my upbringing, I grew up in Key West, Florida.
Wow.
So pretty far away
it's
from
a
here.
beautiful place.
Yeah, it's about 2 by 4 miles. And, you know, my whole mom's side of the family is from Key West. I grew up in the house my grandfather built.
Wow.
And like our family goes all the way back to the Bahamas and British Honduras on my mom's side.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So, way back. And, you know, I grew up there. I rode my bike everywhere, went to school through, I'd say, 9th grade. And then I went to boarding school. So
Oh my gosh.
I went to
you have
Massachusetts.
to
Yeah.
Tell us how boarding
Wait,
school.
tell us like all of the details. So a little cute Key West. I can see cute little Amanda on a little bike riding around. Just so different from like growing up in Montana and New Jersey.
Yeah.
What led that change? So like you're a freshman and like what was that change like, and how did you feel about it? Because that's
And
a huge
did you
change.
tell your parents I want to go to boarding school?
Yeah,
Or?
there's a combination of things that led to that. You know, Key West is a great town. It's very tourist driven. Most people, when I tell them I'm from Key West, they're like, oh gosh, I didn't know anyone lived there. You know, people come on cruise ships or they come on a plane. They stay for the weekend, they hang out on Duval Street, go out to the beach and the reef. But yeah, there's a whole ecosystem of people that live there. And let's see, school, I fast tracked through school. I skipped half of 7th and 8th grade at a Catholic school there. And
Wow.
my brother had gone to a boarding school for summer camp in New Hampshire, and he really had a friend that introduced him, and he really loved it. And then he's 2 years older than me, and so he decided to go to junior boarding school, and he was already out of the house. And I thought about it. I said, well, you know, I would love to do that. My parents were kind of getting divorced, so it was a really great time to get away from any conflict. And it took about a year to apply for boarding schools. There was a secondary school admissions test.
Wow.
I had to interview and tour at 10 different schools and then select a school. So it was a lot.
It's like college.
Yeah,
Like,
really
wow.
complicated. But there were people from all over that went to that school. My school was about 400 kids, co-ed, in Western Massachusetts.
Wow. And what was that like? Like kind of going out on your own. You're a high school student. Like what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, it was really challenging. In boarding school, they have requirements to play 2 competitive and 1 non-competitive sport. And
Oh my God.
So it's like all
I never
year
would have made it in
long.
boarding
Yeah.
school.
and then you have to have other things on top of that. So I ran the 1907 Society, which is when we were established, and that was a annual fundraising, student fundraising for the campus. And we did phone banking and things like that. And I ran that and taught students how to cold call, which is really fun. Just bought them pizza and we hung out for the night and made our calls. And then I was also the radio station manager. So I didn't do podcasts, but I definitely helped manage people's radio shows through our study hall, which was 8 to 10 at night, every night, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
And we had school on Saturday, half days.
Oh my gosh. So you had just Sunday off?
It was, Wednesday half days and Saturday half days so you could travel for sports. So we would go all the way to New Jersey and places like that.
What sports did you do?
I was captain of tennis, volleyball, and I played soccer. I was our varsity soccer goalie.
Wow. So. Those are like 3 different: tennis, soccer, and volleyball. And what one was your favorite? Tell me what one was your favorite.
I'd say probably tennis because I grew up playing it in Florida, and we would start playing tennis in the spring, and it would still be snowing in Massachusetts, so it was pretty fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of like here.
Yeah, and we'd finish soccer when the snow would fly, so it was pretty common.
You're like going from one climate.
Oh yeah,
where it's hot.
I wore flip flops until I was forced not to up there because there was a dress code. We had to wear, button-down shirts, blazers, and closed-toed shoes at all times. I look at social media now from my boarding school, and the expectations have changed drastically since then of what people wear, but it was a really great experience. And I gave tours to prospective students and their parents, and they'd come from different countries. We always had some German students there. I really enjoyed the teachers I had. They were also my coaches and dorm parents. So that was pretty cool. You'd see them all the time.
Wow. And so you're going through this school, and then are you starting to look at like colleges? Like, what was that next thing for you?
Yeah. Well, I definitely missed home, but I go home every summer.
Did you go home during the year?
We had longer breaks. We had a winter break, and then we had a little bit of a break between Christmas and the next session. So I would split my time. If it was a shorter break and my parents couldn't come up, I had to be signed out by another student's parent to go with them for the weekend. So I would do that every once in a while, but it was pretty strict about staying on campus if you lived on campus. And we had about 75 to 80% boarding students, and then the rest were day students that came in. But yeah, it was just, boarding school is really interesting. It taught me to be independent really early on, and then just was really focused on achievement and leading up to, what your career goals are. And I thought about going to a private college in New England, and that would be great. But I also have a deep history at Florida State University in my family. And so I felt there was also a little bit of, well, can you come back home? And my parents had put money away for Florida prepaid college, and boarding school is very expensive. So I did go back and went to Florida State University. I actually have a note here because I was looking at our family chat that we have. My first family member at Florida State was a 1933 graduate.
Oh, wow. So you do have it, like, it's in your veins to go to Florida State.
I'm one of 15, and then the last to graduate was 2017.
Wow.
And my aunt was a homecoming queen. She was in the circus at Florida State University.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, is that like an actual group there?
Yes.
They have a circus?
Uh-huh.
How
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and my
they don't have that in Montana. I'm like, what? I don't even think it's a big schools.
Well, and I went from 400 students to about 42,000.
Wow, yeah.
So it was a huge jump, and oh my goodness, where am I?
Yeah, so in boarding school, were there because it's so foreign to us, and we haven't had anyone on that's been in boarding school. So are you in certain tracks for academics, or is it kind of the gamut?
Pick that you're going to go do this?
There were pros and cons of curriculum in that each class felt like it was a AP level class, but anything in Florida didn't translate and carry over. So I had to kind of start from scratch when I started in college. So yeah, I took classes every summer to catch up to be able to apply for my major. And, I really had to rack up credits to be able to get in. And you had to take intro classes to show them that you really wanted to be in the College of Communications, which is what I went into. I minored in Spanish and majored in public relations.
Wow.
And then I kind of ended up finishing college in about 3 years. And I was a TA for mass media law, and I worked for a lobbyist firm. and the state capital in Tallahassee, Florida.
And so it sounds like you kind of fast tracked a lot through school. So were you 18 when you graduated? Younger?
I wasn't 21 until my senior year of college.
Okay. Yeah. So you did that. What was it like doing that work in Tallahassee?
For the lobbyist firm?
Yeah.
It was really cool. I mean, I worked for a father-daughter lobbyist firm, and they had public and private sector clients, and I went into the state capitol in the afternoons after I did my TA position, and I was in committee meetings and writing legislative reports and doing research, and that really sparked my interest in the research component to business development and client relations, and really, that led me down that path. Although I graduated in 2009, and they're like, well, we really want to hire you. We can't do it right now. And so then I kind of thought about it. I said, well, I had been working with my father on his book, and he's a landscape architect in Miami. And I just said, well, I think I'm going to work with him for a bit. And he was hoping to restructure his company a little bit, and it was great timing. And so I joined my dad's firm right out of college, really.
Wow.
That's awesome. And those of you, they can't see what we're seeing, but beautiful pictures of what we're seeing so far.
Yeah.
So when you were like going through boarding school, growing up, was communications, was that something that you always had a knack for, that you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense? And is that why you majored in it? And what was that interest like for you growing up?
Yeah. I mean, I think my freshman year at Florida State, we're going through orientation, and because it's a circus school, they teach you how to juggle, and that's part of orientation.
Wow. Okay.
Okay,
legit.
so hold on.
Steve would die.
This
if he
is
knew
a
that.
circus school?
Yes.
I have so many questions. So many questions.
Well, but we're a football school, too.
Yeah.
We're a football school, but a circus school.
Mm-hmm.
Which one comes first?
I would say football. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Football first.
Okay, what's the football?
Or the Seminoles.
Seminoles. Okay.
Not to be
the
confused with Gators.
Okay.
No. That's like Cat Grizz here. We have a big rivalry.
Yeah.
So.
Kayla,
I said
careful with your question.
I'm gonna get half of Florida hating me right now.
But they really wanted you to pick a focus, and
right out of the gate, freshman year.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I'd always loved writing. I wrote a lot in boarding school, more prose and poetry, but I really loved that component of it, and thought that communications, whether it's public relations or advertising, would be of interest. And we learned all of that in the College of Communications at Florida State. So,
And it sounds like, just the things that you were running at boarding school, like doing the radio, running the cold calling, really were experiences that maybe you look back on now and you're like, oh, those were super helpful to what you do now.
I think so. And I get calls from the students now at Berkshire, which is my boarding school, and they're phone banking, and it's like, oh no, it's the other way around. You're asking me to give money.
You're like, I used to do what you did. I ran that.
What kind of pizza did you give them?
So what was it like? Because you didn't really work with your dad, I'm assuming, up until this point. So coming in to work in the family business, what was that like for you? And what were some of those roles you had at the company?
Well, I grew up on my dad's job sites, which is pretty cool.
And stunning, I bet. Wow.
Projects throughout the Florida Keys. And then he really focused in Florida originally. And now he does work in the BVIs in Mexico, private islands in places I can't disclose, Palm Beach, Florida.
So many more questions.
For off air.
The West Indies, really cool places. And I've been fortunate enough to go to a lot of those places as well through working with him in my adulthood. And when I started working for him, we had about 5 employees, and a lot of them were, my dad's an artist at first and foremost, so he works from home when he's designing, and he comes into the office for meetings, and so he was that absent owner, wasn't involved in anything tied to marketing, HR, financials as much as he should have been at that point. But no worries, I came in, I wore a lot of hats, I learned a lot of things quickly, and really helped him restructure the company. And in the time I was there, we grew to 25 employees.
Wow.
and really started focusing on how are we branding the company. And I did all the marketing and business development and helped him with his monographs. And now he has 4, and it's through Monticelli Press, and that's what's here on the table. And I helped put together the 2 of them fully myself through scheduling all the on-site photography to writing the narratives and interviewing him.
Oh my gosh.
To the layout, the branding, the naming, and all of that. So it's really fun. And now he's just won a design medal this year, which is
congratulations to him. Wow.
Yes, it's a lifetime achievement for him through the American Society of Landscape Architects. And I think he's doing well, and he doesn't need me anymore.
Well, I'm sure he still does. So coming out of college, how did you know how to do any of some of that stuff? It sounds complicated, you're rebranding a company, you're restructuring and doing all of those things.
Did you do a lot of research?
Yes.
I'm how did you know how to do that?
Yeah, I study, I think studying competitors is really important, studying the industry and really connecting with your peers in the industry. And I definitely stress that the Society of Marketing Professional Services is an amazing organization that unfortunately doesn't exist in Montana. I inquired about starting a chapter, and they said, well, you have to do this, this, and this. And, Miami had one. I worked in San Diego for 3 years for an architecture and interior design firm, and they had one. But it's a peer group of marketers and business development people in the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. And we all get together. There are education sessions. Wow. We learn how to partner and network together, and really, it was a knowledge share for what we do. And what we do is really specific to technical, professions. And so they need someone, especially engineers, they need people that want to talk.
And want to sell the services.
Yeah. And working with my father, he was in a niche market. He did a lot of high-end residential projects and hospitality work. And most of my research was vetting the client to make sure that they were one that we wanted, which is a very different angle. And but then putting them on a wait list and seeing if they'd take a fee at this range. And this is working in public sector projects, and whether it's a school district or government work, it's a whole different animal. And I spend a lot of time researching. I love listening to school board meetings. And
wait, said no one ever. Oh my gosh.
You have to listen at a 2-point speed, or you speed it up for sure.
Yes. But it sounds like just some of the experience you had even working with the legislative, the father-daughter duo, that some of those research things are coming out, and now you're using them in different capacities with your dad's company and then further on in your career. So how long did that restructure, rebranding, all of that take? How many years was that?
Well, gosh, I kind of, my whole 20s was part of the problem, I think, with my personal life, was that I was so focused on helping my dad's business that I didn't really have one. And I said, I need to take a break from this. And in 2016, I have an aunt that lives in California, and I was like, I'm going to go visit her for a bit and then decide about maybe trying out some work there in San Diego. And so I moved to San Diego in 2016, and I was there for 3 years. And I worked for an architecture and interior design firm that did a lot of biotech work and university work.
Wow.
And so at that point, I felt like it was important for me to spread my wings and go away from family. And family dynamics are always a little bit, difficult at times, but really, really rewarding too. So I really enjoyed my time there. And then I learned a lot being in that other firm in San Diego. And we didn't have engineering within our scope. Cushing Terrell has engineering, so this firm didn't. So building those relationships with consultants and getting 3 bids for each different discipline and learning about different disciplines and what they entail, it's really helpful to then build where I am now at Cushing Terrell.
So how'd you wind up here
in Montana?
Well, it's funny. I have it on my phone. I was going to show you, but I have a picture where I'm 6 years old in front of the Crazy Mountain Ranch bus in Shields Valley before Marlboro bought it. It was a client of my dad's who had owned the ranch at the time.
Wow.
And we were out there for some event, and
6 years old, just little.
And we would always come out to the Rockies for vacations in the summer. My dad always wanted to be in nature and wanted us to be in nature. So I grew up coming out here. We have family friends in Livingston and in Cameron, south of Ennis. Actually learned how to drive on a dirt road out there, listening to Willie Nelson in an old Suburban.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people's like first time driving experience in
road,
Montana. Yeah.
Yeah,
Willie
swimming,
Nelson.
swimming in Chico while my parents are in the saloon, you know. It was like,
yeah.
Like
now you can get one of the
fun-
slushies.
Fun summer. I still haven't I've only eaten at Chico, so I need to go. But so you grew up going to Montana.
Yeah.
So then like, what was that connection later when you're in San Diego? What was that pull into Montana?
yeah, a family friend that was in Livingston had a vacant cabin in the summer. And so I said, hey, can I come and stay there? And so I would do that for a couple summers before I decided, I really want to be out in the mountains. Traffic's horrendous. I think I came before everyone else did, during COVID from the cities. But I was told quickly to change my license plate from California.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Everyone
comment.
is
Yeah,
welcome.
No comment. So you were coming out, spending some time in the summers, and you're like, no, I'm going to make the move. So when you made that move, were you like working still for the San Diego company?
No.
Or were you like, I quit? I'm done.
They thought I was they said, okay, yeah, go ahead to Montana, have a great time. You're coming back here. It's going to be too cold. You're not going to make it. And
you're like, I did like New England kind of winters. I've got it.
Yeah, they gave me a great send off. They were a wonderful company, and I'm still in touch with a lot of the principals. But I came out here and I told myself by my 30th birthday, I'm going to get a job. And I did within, a month's time. And that was Cushing Terrell, which was formerly CTA Architects Engineers, and it was downtown Bozeman.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your role with them that you applied and started?
Yeah, I was a marketing manager.
And was it the position? Was it the company? Like, what drew you to want to work there?
It was a similar range of skills that I needed for the job, and similar to what I was doing in California. My focus really in Bozeman was our government vertical market, but most of the government vertical leadership was in our different offices. So I was physically in Bozeman, but I worked with them and on projects elsewhere as well, but mostly for federal pursuits, for National Park Service, Fish and Wildlife, and Army Corps of Engineers. So
all before you were 30, you did all of these things. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Proposals together.
Definitely not judging myself right now.
There was a lot of volume of proposals that were going out, and I had a stack of different manila folders on my desk on the sticky note of the deadline. And I'd move them around based on what I had and just kind of managing that. And that was just for one vertical market. Wow. And at Cushing Terrell, we have a whole team of marketing people that do focus on proposals. They'll work on go, no-go scheduling, really the strategy around teaming. And then business developers, we work with them based on our regions. And so I'm really happy that I did that. I know exactly what they do. I did that. Now I'm doing the business development, which is really strategic to the region in Billings East. I also work on state level pursuits with our other offices. And now we have 7 offices in Montana. And we just acquired a structural engineering firm. So we have 17, this is a week old. We have 17 offices and I think over 500 employees now.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
That's
You're not a
huge.
small business anymore.
No, I don't think they know ever. They haven't been for a while. Because you guys have locations all over the country.
Yes. Yeah. And it's really cool because each office has a different culture. We have an Austin office, which is really young and cool and hip. And, Billings is cool and hip too, but we have a lot more of our corporate and long-term, architects and engineers here, but they'll do work from our Billings office for our tech clients in California. So it's really cool. And then, we have Minneapolis, Denver, Seattle, Boise.
Wow.
And they're all in cool downtown locations in these cities, which is really cool. So
And
now
you
we have
guys
Spokane and Portland and Bend.
Ooh.
And you guys are downtown and made that investment strategically into Billings too,
Exactly.
to renovate an old warehouse building.
Yeah, it's a 1919 building.
Which is cool.
Yeah, super
Historic.
fun.
So what was that transition like for you from the marketing role in Bozeman to now regional director?
Yeah, so it's part of our firm's strategic growth planning. And so we have goals to hit and metrics for each of our regions. It's hard in Montana since we have a few offices that have business development directors. We definitely share and cross over a lot with clients. And some of our other offices, maybe our Denver office, our BD person there is focused just on the Denver area. And so here I'm definitely doing research for projects that are in Glendive and up in the High Line, and then in Wyoming and into the Dakotas, and then working with our Denver team from the Wyoming side. So it's really cool to see. I don't think there's a area of the United States that my company told me not to do business development in.
Yeah.
They really want us to reach for the stars and see where we can come up with partnerships with different consultants, teaming arrangements, and things like that.
So with all of the thing, like you have a lot going on, projects, prospects, like relationship building, all of that, like just some detailed things, like how do you stay organized? Like how do you even, like you've learned all these things and now you're like a team of one, if I'm not mistaken, right? Which is like, oh gosh, you have a lot to do. How do you stay organized and like,
well, and so
do?
I'm a year in Billings because I moved over from Bozeman. And so it was really fun to almost just start from scratch, learning about how Billings operates in the economic development world, the chamber, the business world, the community and nonprofit world, and arts and culture. So really just all I want to do is get to know people and understand how they work. And that is something I really enjoy doing. I did that when I first moved to Bozeman. I was in Rotary there. I was on a citizens advisory board for the city. I was on a land trust board.
So you really just dived in.
You do. That's what I was saying. Like she's really good at what she does. Like, and I've never seen a more like even the first time I met you, I remember because you sent me a follow-up email and I'm like, this is the most articulate, beautiful, like put together, but like you're really good at what you do, you know? So
you have good energy. We really like
and
good
you like
energy.
do dive in. And I think like even now you've been here like a year and I'm like, you probably know, I've been here, I don't know, 11 years. Which is a long
I've been
time.
here
and I feel like, you know, but you just really immerse yourself in the community, which I think is so telling of your character and like what the company is encouraging you to do.
Thanks. Yeah, I think, it was probably not a great idea, but when I first started here in Billings, I said, well, I'm going to go to, and in my new role, I'm going to go to every conference I can this fall and this spring. And I went to Montana League of Cities and Towns. I went to MACO, Association of Counties. I went to MEDA, and I went to the Ambassadors and the downtown one and other ones that are tied to different industries, the healthcare one. And I think I was on the road. I mean,
we put a lot of miles on, like a lot.
Yeah, but it was really great to also know, okay, this is where I need to be next year. Oh no, I can send someone else here from our other office based on where they are in the next following years. And these are the contacts I want to keep and foster. And so it was really important to do that. But I don't have to do that consistently.
You don't need to be like,
you don't need to,
those.
kill yourself every year.
Yeah. But how can we position our firm to be thought leaders and maybe speakers, or help with the Montana Festival and get that going? And we really help with the planning and we're instrumental in kind of inviting the right tiers of people to that. And that was the inaugural event.
Montana Festival. Yeah.
That was super fun. And that was really to benefit our Bozeman office. So really, I'll work with our Great Falls office, Helena, our Missoula office. We have Randy Rupert there who's doing business development. He's awesome. And there's a lot I can learn from him. And so, and then just someone that helps me here locally is Shannon Christensen. She's our location director.
Shannon is awesome.
I like her a lot.
Yeah. So if I'm getting pushback or I really want approval for something, I just go directly to her and she'll go with me to some strategic meetings as well.
So for those of us, for our listeners, can you just dive deeper on like what does a day in business development for you look like?
Yeah. Depends on the day, I will say. And talking about organization, now that I've had about a year of really seeing what's out there, I'm structuring my time better and
we want the details of that.
Offloading things that I don't necessarily need to be focused on and seeing where they're more, the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah. So how are you structuring? I love talking about scheduling, structure, et cetera. So what are those things for you?
Well, we do have vertical markets, like I mentioned earlier. So healthcare, government, education, retail and commercial, and a few others. So based on Billings region and what team members I have and where our focus is, I might be more focused in Q1 on healthcare or education. So we have vertical market meetings every week tied to education, our education team, our healthcare team. So we'll go through any leads that we're developing, any project pursuits, anything tied to project milestones, groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, photography scheduling. And so, I have those for each vertical market. So I jump into those calls in portions that I think are important and then jump out of those calls. And then we have also our marketing and business development team meetings as well.
Wow.
So, where we learn what's working in the Denver market, what's working in the Boise market, what's very unique to Montana market, things like that.
Yeah. Wow. So, and you guys did this building.
Yes.
Your team did this that we're sitting in, which was really fun to work on. Hopefully they thought it was fun for most of it too, but the renovation of this. And so it was fun. We've talked a little bit about Cushing Terrell, but do you, just for those listening that maybe, because you guys are unique and you're big, you have a lot of different services you offer. Do you just want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do a lot of things. So we definitely do the architectural side and interior design, but we do a lot of things that you don't necessarily see or understand. On the engineering side, we have a whole sustainability division that studies the different materials that we use in our buildings and how sustainable they are, down to how the buildings are running, post-occupancy studies, things like that. We just got construction photographs of a project in Lodgegrass where we're doing MEP in commissioning, and so the mechanical engineering side, where we are adding, and I wrote this down because this is something that I'm learning still.
Yeah.
It's technical. But
I'm like, tell us the details.
It's a geo-well-field heat pump system that replaces an old coal-fired boiler.
Oh, wow.
So very technical. The images, I'm not going to put on LinkedIn probably, but it's
They're
lot
not
of,
as pretty.
Yeah, but I mean, there's some really interesting engineering work that we do. We work with school districts around the state. We'll do some, let's see here, some Northwestern energy rebates tied to switching out different lighting systems. And
because it's all going more LED, right? Like that's the shift for Northwestern.
And we'll do photovoltaic, and we work on...
What is that?
PV, so solar.
Oh, got it.
Solar panels, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then we'll do, some microgrid and battery infrastructure-related projects.
Wow.
And then we'll partner with firms that do wastewater and water treatment to transportation engineering that we don't have. So we don't have everything all in one, but we definitely leverage what we have internally and strategically where we can add on consultants. And so we really enjoy that.
Wow, that's a lot.
So we have over 30
30
disciplines. So from landscape to interior design to master planning, land planners, civil engineers, structural engineers, mechanical engineers.
Wow. And structural is super important for and those companies that maybe don't have that, they can work with you guys to do that kind of work too. Which I do think, like you said, it is things that you're not always thinking about. But I think it's like when you are in that project or you're that company that owns whatever building and needing that service, you can find it. It's just you maybe don't think about it unless you need it.
Right. Yeah, and like we have a pro bono design services portion of our firm that we go through a process where people can submit projects that they might need some help with, but they don't have the funding for it, and we will go through and approve that project, and then work with it. Which was most recently was the Girl Scouts of Montana and Wyoming. They needed a garage for their van. Their catalytic converters kept getting stolen on Grand Ave there, and so we did that project for them. Wow. And just got it photographed, and now we're currently working on the Family Justice Center here in Billings and helping them with some studies. So
cool. I love that.
Yeah, it's called Northern Lights, which is really exciting.
That's
a pretty name.
Yeah. What would you say are some of the most important pieces to your role as a business development director?
The strategy and just reminding our principals and some of our client-facing contacts within our firm to stay on top of communication with clients or past clients or future clients, and just helping them navigate that, and being in the right place at the right time, and making sure that we follow our clients on LinkedIn. We know what's going on with them. That research component, I think, is really important. And you have to have time to do that, though. I know everyone at my firm is also doing billable work, and I'm overhead, so I definitely do a lot more of the research stuff. But I do love pointing our principals in the directions for growth and new opportunities for the company.
So as you look back at like all of these experiences from working with your dad into San Diego and then the Bozeman office location role that was a little different now than to what you're doing, what are some of those, like, because as a young professional, like what are some of those big moments that have stood out to you that have been really big learning moments for you that still like really stand out as pivotal for your growth?
I think one thing that's really important for any design firm, even engineering firms, is submitting awards, because there's credibility to putting award submittals together and showing off your project as being an award-winning project. And I remember I really was able to fine-tune how I put AIA, ASLA, and IIDA, which is interior design, award submittals together for national awards and for state-level awards, and really helped design a template for that for the firm that I worked for in California specifically. And I also have seen how I've built websites for these companies as well, because in the smaller firms, I did all the creative design from the website to social media to branding. And thankfully, Cushing Terrell has a whole team that does that, and I just help augment them. And I usually will ask questions and say, oh, so why is it done like this? And can you do this for me? And, we have a great graphic design team as well, so it's really great. But I've learned a lot by having to wear a lot of hats, and I love that I just grew through that process. So
no, I think that's super important. I mean, it could, because you have, and you're like, no, I have done these, and I think that's lent well to your now role. Can you talk a little bit about brand, because you've done your dad's, which I think is a huge like testament, like you completely redid that out of college. Just the importance of branding and how you carry that through everything you do in a company.
Yeah.
Well, because it's more than a logo. We talk about it all the time. It's not just the logo. It's like everything you do is a representation of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's easy for my father. His last name's Jungles. And
which is cool. Such a fun last name.
And he's a landscape architect, so it just is very conducive to what he does. It stands out. So the branding side was really more of showing the work. A lot of his projects were confidential and residential, and so it was, how do we rename the project? How do we mask where it is? How do we get permission? Projects like that were difficult. So, that's part of the branding is really easy for someone like my father. For the company in San Diego, there were a lot of firms that did what they did. So it was, how do we differentiate? And that was really based on partnerships with different firms and really just being out in the community. So that community relations perspective is really important. I kind of dabble in that here, even though I really think that community relations and public relations and community outreach, all those under one umbrella, and business development and marketing and PR are all one thing. Yeah. And I kind of wear that hat on a regional level and then work with our corporate team in Cushing Terrell to help get that information out. Although I would really love to have a Billings LinkedIn and a Billings Instagram, but that would take a lot of people to manage all of the ones for our offices. So
yeah, it would.
We have to get creative.
Yeah.
So you have quite a wide area that you cover and have to do a lot of projects in. How do you keep yourself, focused and organized?
We, on a monthly basis as a company and then a quarterly basis, we have a all staff meeting, and we just had one before this podcast recording, and we did our quarterly all staff meeting, and they go over the financials, there are updates from our human resources department, and then there's a whole bunch of projects that get submitted for review to go through the all staff on design, so from all of our office locations. And so if we're working on a veterinary clinic in our Austin, Texas office, wow, that'd be so cool to do that here. How do I leverage that project for the Montana market? And so then I'll kind of think of how to, market that via social media, but also, okay, where are the clients here? And then do some research on that. And how can we position our designers to meet with those clients? And so really sharing on where we've been successful in projects elsewhere and also in Montana with our other offices. So, it might be a different climate that we're designing for. We have an office.
Yeah, that's a good point too, to think about.
We have a small office in New Orleans, which is pretty cool.
Wow, that is cool.
And it's really focused on historic preservation, but we can leverage that expertise for a historic preservation project here in Montana too. There's a lot of similarities.
And you guys have done quite a few historic preservations, right? If I'm not mistaken.
So those all staff meetings really help organize my thoughts as to what is important for the company right now, what sales goals do we have to hit this next quarter, and how am I going to focus my time to achieve those goals. And so it changes on a monthly to quarterly basis, but I definitely know, I think I'm at a point now in this role within a year to know what's been working and what we can fine tune. So
you talked a little bit about it, but just for those listening that maybe are just starting out in their careers or maybe starting out new, fresh in a business development type role, what are tips, because you've done you've lived in multiple communities, you've went to different things where you've had to build that network and get integrated into the community. What are those tips and tricks you have for doing that? Because each community is different, but like what are your tips?
Yeah, I didn't know anyone in Bozeman when I moved there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, you just move somewhere new and you're like, I don't know any of you.
Yeah, and I knew my aunt in California, so that was it. Really good question. I'd say go out, meet as many people as you can, have dinner at a bar and sit there and just meet people that are sitting next to you. Just find that regular spot. I think that was helpful because I lived downtown in Bozeman. I went to the downtown gym. Our office was downtown. So I was in like a 6-block radius of where I lived and worked. I went to the co-op all the time for food. We call it the adult cafeteria. Because it was
that
great.
the one on the corner?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the hot bar.
Yeah.
And they have a great Indian food selection on Thursdays, if they still do. But, I started joining things. I was like, well, I'm a woman in Montana. How do I meet other women? I joined Women Who Wine, which was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds fun.
And I just found out there's a chapter here in Billings.
Oh.
And in Billings, I joined the 100 Strong Billings, which is fantastic. Very similar, but not as time-consuming because they meet once a quarter. So just organizations that I thought would align with my personal and my professional goals. Joining the Land Trust, just because I've always been tied to the outdoors and working within a landscape architecture firm. And there was a young professional board there. And I thought that was important. And just the community foundations are really great. I mean, you don't have to be a really deep-pocketed contributor. You can give your time and you can give your talents, and you don't necessarily have to give your treasures yet if you don't have them too much amassed. And so similar to the art museum here, I'm on the development committee, the art auction committee, and the golf committee.
Fun.
But I'm not on the board. And because there's a financial contribution for the board, and I'm not quite there yet. So I'm like working my way up to it. And there are a lot of opportunities. If you just ask, hey, I want to get involved. How do I do that? Like make a meeting, tour the building, learn about the nonprofit or the professional organization, and go from there. So
I really like that. I think we've talked about that too, just even with our team or just each other, of getting involved in the community. Like people want volunteers. They want people to dedicate time because they need that. But it's like finding like what you've done. It's like where are your passions and finding things that align with that, because maybe, like the art scene is definitely yours, but maybe a different board wouldn't align as much with what you're really interested in personally.
Yeah. And honestly, it's a mix of, the art museum really is a personal passion of mine. I've always been, my mom's an artist and interior designer as well. So I have just a creative family and of artists. And I'm the business end. I don't think I could draw a face if I tried.
I just like dots as
I feel
eyes.
like my creativity is in other things. Like Canva's a godsend.
Oh, Canva.
Yeah.
Game changer.
So yeah, I don't think I'm going to go that route, but I have an appreciation for art and culture. And so I really wanted to be involved in the museum here. And so, yeah, just going out and figuring out what would align with you personally. And if it ends up bleeding into the professional part of it, that's awesome. But I'm not doing this to try to, shake out work or something like that. It's really tied to being a community member, and that's really exciting. So.
Give first mentality.
Yeah.
And just networking and meeting people, because I'm not from Montana, but the amount of people that are related or know each other and grew up in that town, it's crazy.
So interesting. You like sit with somebody and then they're like, oh, aren't you so-and-so's second niece? And you're like, what? Yeah. And they're like, oh yeah, I saw you at a barbecue 17 years ago.
Yes, because it's like,
I love watching
I feel like because I grew up here, and it's like you almost want it. You're like, oh yeah, I know so and so from like blah. And it's just like a fun way. I think where Montanans want to just connect in that way.
Yeah. I mean, my partner's from Miles City. And the minute I say that, someone knows someone and name drops someone in Miles City, and I don't know.
Like, I have no idea, but I'm sure he'll know. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I love that about Montana. It's like one big small town, and I think that that's fun. So being in Montana, tell us some of this is just like a fun question, but what are some of those fun things that you like to do, not being from here, moving here in the past 5-6 years or whatever it is? What are those things that you like to do for fun in Montana?
Yeah. Well, as you know, I grew up in Key West, and we fished with cut up bait and chum and big sinkers.
Can you tell us what
hooks.
a chum is? I don't know what
Chum is just a frozen block, at least in Florida, of all these fish pieces.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Discarded pieces.
Yep.
And then you put them in a bag and you put it at the back of the boat and you shake it as it thaws, and it goes into the water with all the oils and attracts fish and sharks and things like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I had no
It's
idea.
like SpongeBob Plankton's like the chum bucket.
Yeah.
Chum.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you for that SpongeBob
It's nothing
reference.
nice. Marcel, you would never put yourself near chum,
okay.
I imagine.
Probably not. But Sheen and I have not gotten along in the past, so.
Yeah, so that was what I was used to. And I didn't really, even in Key West, I didn't know that there was such a big fly fishing community there. And then I moved to Bozeman, and I said, oh gosh, what am I going to do? It's April, and it's not great to go outside yet. It's my first winter in Bozeman. And I found a fly shop that did a women's fly fishing 101.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
so I said, oh gosh, I'm going to do this. And taught you about tying knots, tying lots of them, the entomology of bugs, how to cast. And then by the time I was finished that course, it was time to go out. The weather was nice before runoff. And so I started to learn how to fly fish. And that has been a real passion of mine since I moved here.
Fun. That's really cool. I've never done it. Like I said, I grew up in Eastern Montana. Fly fishing is not a thing there. Nor fishing really, but that's really cool. And so you just went, did it yourself, learned, and now
Where's your favorite place to fly fish? Like
Around here, it's the Bighorn.
Bighorn.
Yeah.
How fun.
Really fun. It takes a little bit of time to get down there compared to where I was in Bozeman, where I could just pop out to the Gallatin or East Gallatin or and explore. But you know, it's worth it because the fish are plentiful and they're really nice sized fish. So.
And something that you learned since being here.
Yeah, and I've taught Mike now how to fly fish, and he's always
from
been
Eastern Montana, we don't
guy,
do that.
You know,
we don't
spin fisherman.
Like we don't fly fish in Eastern Montana, not at all. So, what are some exciting things you have on the? Now you've been here a year, but it feels like longer. I feel, but maybe you don't feel that. I'm like, I feel like Amanda's been here forever. But what are some things on the horizon for you that you're excited about in this next year for Cushing Terrell and your role?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a little bit before we integrate both firms from the Eclipse Engineering, the structural firm we did acquire. And they came on board with a full book of business. And so that's fantastic. And so just the learning through the rebranding and of Eclipse into Cushing Terrell and how we can then help them and our firm as a whole for the new markets for Cushing Terrell, including Bend and other places like that. And so it'll be fun to see where that goes. I'm excited. See, I work a lot with our education team, and I really love the work there. And we're doing really creative things outside of school districts and outside of the universities. And I'm excited for what that might be. And we're working on some interesting things. So
that's
awesome.
exciting and something for us to look forward to. So we've talked about Cushing Terrell, the services you guys have, but tell us a little bit about the culture and what's it like to work at Cushing Terrell, a company that is more unique and has like locations. So you're joining virtually, you're doing different things. What's the culture like?
Yeah, and the culture is awesome. I loved the Bozeman office. It was a smaller office and just really interesting characters. And some of them have retired, and now we have a lot of young MSU grads in civil engineering and architecture, and that's really fun. And so that culture is different in that office. And the Billings office is really great too. And we have a lot of our principals here in Billings that when I was in Bozeman, I was like, oh, I don't know if he'll ever recognize me, you know. And now I work with them every day, and I get to see a lot of our really great principals, and they've been there for 20, 30 years, and Shannon's been there 20 years this year, and she started as an intern.
She's an Eastern Montana girl, too.
Yeah, she's from Circle. So I think it's super cool to see the history of the firm, the longevity and like the opportunities for mentorship within our company is really great. And I really like that. And we have a really great DEI program. We have great, we call it CTU, Cushing Terrell University.
Cool.
And we learn a lot about different things. And
That's
it's really
cool.
helpful with our company and knowing about the different offices. And they're always happy to have us visit other offices to learn and go out to dinner with other team members. And we have a lot of remote employees too, which is, I thought was a very interesting thing after COVID, because we definitely always had a system where we worked remotely from our different offices and worked really well. But after COVID, we all had to kind of work remotely and fully away from offices. And so now we have maybe 5 or 6 people in Florida that work for us.
Oh,
and
wow.
we have a few people in North Carolina and then spread out throughout the United States. So it's really cool. And that also helps us, recruit a lot of great talent that we maybe wouldn't have based on our locations. So.
And just different, I think, different locations, states do things differently. So it's just bringing a different skill set that maybe you, like you said, you wouldn't have had prior to that.
Perspectives.
Yeah. That's really cool.
We are from Montana. Our roots are in Montana. We always have been. But our motto for a long time was pioneering environments. And we felt like we were always pioneers, and we still are. And it's really exciting.
That is exciting, and headquartered here in Billings, Montana. So we've really loved having this conversation, getting to know you. So thanks for joining us. And as you may know, we like to end each episode with a few rapid fire. I'm doing like the air quotes because sometimes they're not so rapid, but rapid fire questions. So we'll take a moment to hear a message from a sponsor and then come back to those.
Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigsky.economicdevelopment.org. Welcome back. My question for you is, what is your most favorite project you've ever worked on?
Oh, actually, I bookmarked it in this book here.
Ooh, and we'll take some pictures.
Yes.
So tune into our Instagram to check it out.
Yeah, it's a project in Nevis in the West Indies, an island, a volcanic island. It's a boutique hotel called Golden Rock Inn. And I was able to go there through the beginning of the project all the way to completion. And I went there last in 2021. And it's one of my favorite places to go. My dad designed all of the grounds of the boutique hotel. It was a very old historic sugar plantation.
Oh, wow.
As you may know, Alexander Hamilton's from Nevis, so there's a big history there. And these artists bought the boutique hotel there from New York. And Helen Martin and Bryce Martin, and Bryce recently passed away, but he was a very, very talented artist, had a retrospective at MoMA. It's just really fantastic. And Helen had injured her leg in New York City, and she was going to a bookstore, and she grabbed one of my dad's books, and then she called him and said, "Hey, I really love for you to do this project." And so we went out there, and it's just a magical place. There are monkeys and sheep and goats. And
oh my gosh, I'm looking it up as soon as we get down here. Yeah,
big jackfruit and great beaches, and it's got a beautiful peak that you can actually climb, but it's in the rainforest. It's very dangerous and slippery, but I recommend it.
Wow. So. That sounds, I can't wait to see the photos of it in the book. I have one that is, what's some of the best advice you've ever received?
One of, I'd say my dad's mottos, it's always been something that throughout our family is do right, fear not. And so that's been kind of my go-to whenever, whenever I have a question about it. It's like, no, I need to do right no matter what and not fear what might come of it.
I really love that. That's really impactful.
Yeah. And just from reading through Leadership Billings, we read books, and mine was on Colin Powell. And one of his big rules was get mad and get over it. And I'm not quite good at that yet, but I'm reminded, don't forget, get mad and get over it. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll do that.
I really like that, what your dad said. That's really, I think I need to write that down and think about that more.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So my final question for you is, what is your go-to coffee order?
Oh, Americano.
Ooh, same.
Maybe a little dash of French vanilla, but that's,
Americano.
You guys can have your Americanos. I'll have my sugary latte.
So, Amanda, where can people connect with you, find you, connect with Cushing Terrell?
Yeah.
Give us the socials.
Well, there's Cushing Terrell, LinkedIn, all the socials. But for me, especially regionally, it's through my LinkedIn. And then my contact information, which might be on the podcast, hopefully. But Amanda Jungles at cushingterrell.com.
We'll share it in the episode notes. So thank you for joining us. This has been a delight.
And I apologize if I made any extra noises. My first podcast, I'm a little nervous.
You're good. You
I
did
have a
great.
sticky note here. It says "speak slowly."
I know. I was looking at that and I was like, maybe I need to write notes for myself.
I do too. I need to write notes to myself. Breathe. Don't forget. Drink water, etc.
Yes.
Well, thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Thank
This
you.
was fun.
Thank you. It was a delight.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at The Vault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye.